That's the one. All right. Check, 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 check. Okay. We good to go. We good to go. Got a good show for you tonight. We are going to do some paperwork tonight because I've been getting a lot of people asking me things about paperwork. So I'm gonna put this on YouTube, um, and just kind of show people how to do some paperwork tonight. So this ought to be a very, very good one. Because I'm gonna show you how I do shit, behind the scenes. So this is like some behind the scenes type stuff right here. So make sure you share, like, comment, and subscribe. Get your likes up. And let me see where I'm gonna start this thing. I love this. I love this screen capture feature on here. It is dope. It is so dope. Is that what I want? I don't want Word. Yep, that's it right there. Okay, let me do something else though first. Let me do something else. Let y'all get in and get situated. Okay, I think I can get this on here like this. Matter of fact, I know I can. Yeah. All right, where are we at? Let's see. We on YouTube. Yeah, we on YouTube. All right, that's cool. All right, this is the PDF download on SPC University. All right, it's a PDF download. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to the documents that I'm giving you and telling you what to read for free on SPC University. I'm going to show you how to extract information from it fast and put it into a pleading or an entire administrative process, and exactly how the paperwork should look when you're done. Okay? How it should look when you're done. All right. Now, let's see. These are PDFs. What I'm going to do, and I'm using, let me show you the programs I'm about to use too. Now, the program, Abbyy Fine Reader, they should give me, the first thing I want you to write down is this program right here, Abbyy Fine Reader. Okay, this is a tight ass program, and I've used it for some years. And I've been using it. I'll make a lot of my slides with this and all kind of things. And the reason why is I can take a document and it will pull all the words off a picture and put it in a Word format for me, or a PDF document or whatever. And it is like a vital piece of software that I use in almost everything that I do, as far as providing content on YouTube or any other platform. It is definitely something that I suggest people get. It's called Abbyy Fine Reader. I love it. It is a very good tool to have. And I'm about to show you how I utilize that tool. Okay, so I'm gonna get back to the PDF section, and then we're gonna download because people are always talking about right to travel. So now this page is right here. When you come over, it's on the PDF downloads. I'm logged in, but if I weren't logged in, it's the same thing on the outside of the website. So you can download this. So the one I'm looking at is abatement at common law. So I'm gonna download that, and bam, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take all of this and we're going to turn it into where is that? Damn, I didn't know they had all this. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. We're going to turn all of it into this right here. Where is that? Oh, shoot. Hold on. I'm messing up. I was flowing. And I'm got off point. Okay. I'm trying to work this. Damn, man. Where's cursor? Where is it at? Okay, it's right there. Just open it up. We're going to turn it, enable editing. We're going to turn it, this is right here. So when you get through utilizing this program, it's going to convert everything into a Word document for you. It's going to convert it into a Word document. And can y'all see it? Y'all can't see what I'm looking at right now. Oh, there it is right there. All right. And you see that's a Word document. All right, that's what it's going to convert this Abbyy Fine Reader is going to do. So let me see if I can download this and show you how everything works from the beginning. So I'm calling this abatement at common law 2. So when you install this program on your computer, it automatically integrates into the computer. And so you don't have to really pull it up. So let's see if I can show you my document downloads. I'm trying to show y'all everything that's on the computer right now. And let's see, window. No, that's not it. I might have to skip past this part right here and just get on with the all applications. No, I can't pull it up. So I'm not going to be able to show you how the program works in real time. It won't let me pull up that aspect. Well, yeah, I can do it. Hold on. I can do it. I can do it like this. I just have to show y'all the monitor. Okay, this is like what my download section. Okay. So it's right here, common law abatement. If I right click that, it's going to say Abbyy Fine Reader, convert to Word document. And this right here is password protected. That's a whole nother thing I had to show you if it's password protected. You're really going to have to screenshot each page and do it, and then make a file and do it. It takes a little longer, but it's still quicker than having to do it by hand. But this one was password protected, I think, but I was able to, as you can see, converted over into a PDF format, into a Word format, I mean. So that's the Word format of this. Now I'm going to show you how to take each of these and convert them into, documents. All right, let's see. Save as. Hopefully y'all can close this up. Hopefully I'm going to explain this real good. Okay, that's it right here, the abatement. All right, so this is the abatement. Let me make sure y'all can see this on screen. All right, so this is the abatement right here after it's converted into a Word format. Now, the abatement process in this Don Quixote document is an administrative process. He has given you an entire administrative process from beginning to end. He gave you the entire process. And that's why I like it so much, is because it's thorough in that kind of way. I'm always talking about the administrative process. I don't know if people realize it or not, but I'm always giving you examples of completed administrative processes. They're out there for you to see from beginning to end, what it's supposed to look like. 4 different scenarios too. This scenario, because all administrative processes don't operate exactly the same way. If you're doing an administrative process on something public, say like the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, it's going to have some different time frames involved because it's 21 days that they have to answer as opposed to 10. But you can do an administrative process in the public or the private. That's all it is. It's just a evidence gathering tool. Everybody kind of uses one. What it is for, it is to have evidence, which means you have witnesses, because evidence is really like witnesses. That's what they really kind of like are synonymous to. And you need 2 of them. You need 2 witnesses. That comes out of the Bible. So when you do an administrative process, you are evidence gathering. You are getting witnesses. And the witnesses are the post office, the 3811 form. That is a witness to the fact that you mailed something to someone. And then the affidavit of mailing from the notary is a witness of what exactly was in the envelope, that they did and receive the notice. All right, and if they had a duty to respond, then there are some remedies available for that when they don't in equity. All right, so let's look at, let me see if I can make my picture. Try to get out the way. All right. Okay, so let's look at this. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, we're going to go down here and we're going to read after you get past the introduction and him talking about it. You're going to see some letters. And the first letter, one of the first letters he has is to a judge. This is the one I got for the judge. That's a notice to abate. All right. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. So this notice to the judge is, this is a good letter too. I have to read this. I have to read this to you. We have to actually read this because I always read this to anybody I'm in front of, because this is one of the best letters that I've ever read to a judge about informing a judge of what your status is, all right? Of informing a judge what your status is. And it is based off of a keen understanding of the fact that this is a legislative venue. It also demonstrates that you understand separation of powers, okay, because they are not Article 3 courts. And it also helps them understand that you understand that the only way that they could bring you into that venue is that you would have to have a presumed status of a U.S. citizen. You would have to have been presumed to relinquish your status in the constitutional republic. All right, so he's addressing all that. This is what's called rebutting the presumptions. And it's done in a very intelligent way. You're not going to sound like a fucking, sovereign citizen. But anyway, it goes to the Honorable Judge so-and-so. When I specially visit your court on a forced response on such and such date to a bill of pains and penalties issued by so-and-so officer, employed by the so-and-so police agency, employed by the corporate Georgia state. I move this court and you, Judge so-and-so, to take judicial notice that my special visitation was forced, that my visitation is special and not general, since this notice is my timely and specific objection to the presumptions upon which a false conclusion of law has been made administratively with regard to my status before this court. Now, you see he has a lot of key things in here. He brings up the fact that it is a presumption. He lets them know that he's making a special appearance by saying it's a special visitation and it's not a general appearance. A bill of pains and penalties. It's a forced response. When you're forced to come in, the reason that this is called an abatement is because there is a error on the part of the state by presuming that you're an artificial person when real living souls should be brought before an Article 3 court. This is the argument that, in case you're watching, that people in the patriot community are making. We're arguing the fact that the jurisdiction that your courts operate under are administrative courts that only have the jurisdiction to entertain corporate matters, okay? To entertain, and that you have assigned everyone a corporate entity, and that is what you are engaging, which is why you write the name in all capital letters. You try to, try to get away from that fact as if people are stupid, but, it's obvious that you're writing the name in all capital letters for a reason. It's for a reason it's on the driver's license in all capital letters. There's a reason it's on all your utility bills in all capital letters. There's a reason on your checks issued by the bank they're in all capital letters. It's a reason when the senators convene in Congress and they're having a discussion, their name is in all capital letters. It's a reason when you go before a judge and you see his nameplate, it's in all capital letters. There's a reason for all of this. You can't tell us there's no reason. And also, this is not within the convention of what is accepted as correct grammar. So, there's no rules of grammar that allow for you to write things in all capital letters. And you are educated, intelligent people. I know you're not trying to do what they do on the internet with ebonics and things like that. So there has to be a reason to it. So that first paragraph in this is addressing some very, very nice things. The second paragraph says, the plaintiff in this case is an administrative officer representing the corporate and de facto state of Georgia, which has legislative power to compel performance upon the letter of its statutes upon all persons subject to its jurisdiction. The only due process that its legislative courts recognize is the right to be heard on the facts of the case. Now, you see right here, we're also bringing up legislative courts, all right? And we're also telling what their jurisdiction is to compel performance. There's a presumption, okay? The plaintiff in this case is an administrative officer representing the corporate and de facto corporate, state of Georgia, which has legislative power to compel. We understand we're dealing with a legislative branch of government. We understand we're dealing with a legislative court, okay? This is what we are saying. All right, we understand there are different courts, that the Constitution delegates power to a legislative branch of government, state and federal. On the federal level, it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9. Congress has the ability to institute tribunals that are inferior to the Supreme Court. Now, these two courts, one is under Article 2 Article 1, and one is under Article 3, they both can't be having the same powers if there is such thing as separation of powers. So what is the distinction between the two? Seems like that would be the intelligent thing to ask, unless that you think that we're supposed to believe that they both have the same power, which would mean you'd be a bumbling idiot with all the court case law on the record that we can go to and find out that that's not the case. So, so that's what we're trying to come to a conclusion. What kind of court is it that we're dealing with? Is this a legislative court, or is this what we call an Article 3 court or a constitutional court? Article 3 courts are defenders of private rights. Article 3 courts are the protectors, or they're the gateway. They block the government, Article 1 and Article 2 branches, from encroaching on private rights. See, when you read the Constitution don't really have anything to do with you. It has something to do with the government. It forms government and it restrains government, just like any trust document. It allegates powers to the trustees, and they can't act beyond that scope. That's called ultra vires. Ultra vires is when they act beyond the scope of their authority, all right, which is the Constitution. Now, they're not acting beyond the scope of their authority. What they have done is they have inveigled, which means deceived, their constituency into buying into another status that is based off of a Marxist, communist, socialist type scheme that was orchestrated in 1933 under the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration, called the New Deal program, which gave us what is called welfare today. So this is the things that we're looking at anytime we come into the courtroom, whether it's a traffic ticket or you're fighting for your house or for your freedom. That's always the underlining issue. What kind of court are we being brought into? Okay, well, how is this being adjudicated? Is there a certain, and what it is you have they're treating you like you're a child, because you're not being brought in a court for adults. You're being brought in a court for dependents. Y'all are our dependents, and that's how we're exercising authority over you, because you have demonstrated time and time again that you can't govern yourself, and you have the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to sit there and try to call yourself sovereign. This is what these people are thinking. This is how these people think. You are sovereign, you can't even govern yourself. The only reason we have government is because you refuse to govern yourself and follow the laws of the Creator. And we are demonstrating it every day. Look at us. Look what we got doing. We got y'all having babies out of wedlock, children, fatherless homes, all kind of things that are going on. They're looking at us as heathens, heathens. And you got to understand that there is an underlying spiritual tone to all of this, because all of this is derived. We're talking about equity. In the Bible, God says, I judge my people with equity. Equity is fairness, impartiality, and even-handed dealing. That's the definition of equity. It's not under statutes. It's based off of contract. And you have to have a contract with the Creator. What covenant are you following? How are you governing your life? What kind of morality do you have? Where are your principles? How do you define your integrity if you don't have any boundaries? How can you be a person of integrity if you don't have any boundaries? That doesn't make any sense to me. And all these are the things that you have to understand when you engage in things like this. This is not some weekend warrior thing. It gets on, it says the corporate plaintiff in this criminal action before this court has made an unproven conclusion of law that John Doe is among those persons who have lost or otherwise abandoned their status in the guaranteed Republican form of government, and who must perform under legislative power upon the exact letter of every legislative statute with no due process of law protection other than that outlined in paragraph 2 of this letter, which is due process, to hear the facts of the case. But right here, this is another powerful paragraph as well. It's an unproven conclusion of law, all right? This conclusion of law, you bringing me into this courtroom, ain't been no conclusion of law that I'm a U.S. citizen. This is all operating under a presumption. We don't have any facts on the case. We need to abate the whole matter until we come into a determination on these things. All right? That's what we need to do first. And you all out of order because you're trying to, and that's something you're supposed to do anyway, but you're not. You're skipping steps. So that's what the abatement is. Okay, do all the complete steps and I'll appear. And the complete steps is you need to make a determination on the record whether you have in personam or in rem jurisdiction over me. And I'm not a corporation. That needs to be said. A lot of you don't take that lightly. That affidavit of denial of corporate existence, which he has in this document, is a very important piece that you should put in. There's a presumption. Some people did the research on it and found a statute in Louisiana, and I'll try to show you a little bit later on, that that said if you don't put in an affidavit saying that you're not a corporation, there's going to be a presumption that you're a corporation. Very, very interesting. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, let's finish. Let's finish reading this document. All right, so, and it talks also about legislative statute once again, saying that, you know, you've otherwise abandoned your status in the guaranteed Republican form of government. That's the republic, that's the real United States of America. The United States is this democracy that you hear them keep talking about. They're not making an error when they say United States. You hardly ever hear them say United States of America. You hardly ever hear them use the word America. They always use United States. And they're talking about a specific jurisdiction that's operating under a territory. That's what Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Everybody is living in that territorial jurisdiction. And it is a fictional territory because they're giving you a social security number. So there's a presumption that you're a citizen, that you're a federal citizen of Washington, D.C. But that's a presumption. And presumptions stand unless they're neutralized, unless they are, they're like ticks on the body. You know, if you don't ever pull one or get nothing off, it's going to just keep sucking blood from you until you get it off, you know. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. There are presumptions that you cannot ignore, and that is one, if you're going to be doing these processes. That's why you never hear me say anything about claiming your nationality. I don't have a problem with people claiming their nationality. I understand that it addresses some of these issues. I know that. You know, that's why I would never talk against it. The problem I have in it is the extent of the powers you think that you have obtained by doing that. I think that's where the error begins. You think you have this all-sweeping power where now you're immune to a lot of things, and I just don't think it is. And the reason I don't think it is because we're talking about a commercial matter. This is not a common law jurisdiction that you're contending with. You want to be in that. You're saying you should be subject to that, but there's a minimum contact that you have to account for. And I know a lot of you are engaging in it. You're engaging in minimum because you ain't living like the Amish. The Amish is the only people that I see today going to the extreme, trying to avoid minimum contacts with these people. I don't think they're doing it all the way either, but they definitely is giving it their best damn shot. All right, but anyway, let me get back. The court, let's look at this next paragraph. The court must take judicial notice that John Henry Doe, an unenfranchised individual. Now, that's an interesting word, unenfranchised. You know, a franchise is like, you know, in a corporation, you know, you have the home business, and then you have the businesses operating in other states, like McDonald's. You get your McDonald's franchise or something like that. Well, that's what you are with the Social Security number. You're like a franchise, you know, of the federal government. You're like a corporate entity, you know. So he's telling the government, I'm unenfranchised. I'm not a franchised individual. See, the court must take judicial notice that John Henry Doe, an unenfranchised individual, has made a contrary conclusion of law to that of plaintiff. John Henry Doe claims his guaranteed fundamental and unalienable rights stemming from both the national and state constitutions to full due process of law and all criminal actions against him means he is subject only to judicial power, not legislative power. Said judicial power, when exercised over him, requires a corpus delicti or a damaged party who has sworn out a verified complaint against him. This is lacking in the criminal complaint against John Henry Doe brought on by the plaintiff. I mean, this is so professionally done. The court has you have to take judicial notice that John Henry Doe, an unenfranchised individual, once again destroying the presumption about our status, has made a contrary conclusion of that of the plaintiff. You've made this unproven conclusion of law. Let me tell you what it really is. Okay, my conclusion is this. John Henry Doe claims his guaranteed fundamental and unalienable rights stemming from both the national and state constitutions, the full due process of law, and all criminal actions against him. Means he's subject to judicial power. Here it is. Here is the distinction. This is the underlying sentence of the whole entire paragraph. I'm subject to judicial power, not legislative power. I'm subject to an Article 3 court, not an Article 1 court. That is what that is saying. All right? Said judicial power, when exercised over him, requires a corpus delicti. We know that as an injured party, okay? Who have I hurt? Okay, anytime me as a real living soul, you take me in an Article 3 court, somebody has to be injured and sworn out a complaint under penalty of perjury, not the fictitious state. You're going to come back and say, well, you've injured the state. Well, don't I have the right to face my accuser? So if the state, who is the state? If the state is levying a claim against me, I demand that he take the stand and be sworn in under penalty of perjury and subject himself to cross-examination. I call the state of California to the witness stand. I call the state of Georgia to the witness stand. I call the state of Florida to the witness stand. I call the state of New York to the witness stand. I call the state of Texas to the witness stand. I call the state of California to the witness stand. I call the state of Illinois to the witness stand. I call the state of Michigan to the witness stand. I'm calling you to the witness stand. You got a claim? Who has a claim against me? Do you know anyone who does have a claim against me? I request that the Honorable Judge direct the prosecutor to answer whether there are any more charges. If ain't nobody got no claims. And if you do have a claim, I request that the Honorable Judge direct the claimant to provide the assessment for the charges, along with a certified audit trail of all transactions, including voucher, as well as all disbursement documents and receipts related to this particular claim, sir. If you have a claim against me, I'm just saying, who has the claim? Who is the claimant? I demand to face him. That's why the traffic ticket camera ticketing don't work, because you got a right to face your accused. That's why they can't get you on the traffic cams. They take them all day. They can't enforce them. Here you go right in court. I demand to face. Who is the eyewitness? I demand to meet him right now. It's not going to work. Let me see what we got here. Are y'all riding with me so far? Brother, the Commerce Clause is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. I ain't talking about the Commerce Clause. I know the Commerce Clause is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. The Commerce Clause is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. Where they can make tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 9. And Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 is their territorial jurisdiction, the 10-mile square in Washington, D.C. And then they have American Samoa, Guam, Puerto Rico, all the U.S. Virgin Islands. All that falls under the purview of the federal government in Washington, D.C. Those are territories. The central government always has possession of the territories before they're converted into a state. That's why you can go and read case law about the state of Florida before it became a state, when it was a territory, and they gave an explanation in there of the distinction between the Article 1 court and the Article 3 court. All right, so, and I don't remember the citation of authority. I can look it, I can dig it up, because it's spoken about in analysis and interpretation of the Constitution by the Supreme Court justices. That is a good document. All right, let's see if I can. Let me finish reading this thing because this thing is so good. All right, so we know we have to have a judicial power. There has to be a damaged party. They have to swear out a verified complaint against you if we're talking about an Article 3 court, if we're talking about true judicial power. Okay, we're not talking about exercising a judicial power. See, like you exercise a judicial power over your children. You know, when you make, you know, as a matter of fact, you exercise legislative, executive, and judicial powers over your children. You're a judge. Okay, you make the rules. Got to be in at 10 o'clock. You enforce the rules. Okay, I'm handing out ass whoopings. And you adjudicate the rules. Okay, let me hear your excuse before I take it out your ass. All right. You know, you're doing that. Well, that's how they treating you as a U.S. citizen. You under the, because of separation of powers, they can exercise plenary power over anything that they have within their territory. So they're not answerable really to the Constitution. They're not really answerable to that. So if they bring you in within that purview, okay, they have almost godlike authority over you. They have usurped your authority as the sovereign, making them public servants, and now they are kings, queens, lords, and all kind of things over you. That's what's happening. And it's no mistake, and you can see it in their attitude. And that's because you don't understand what you should be doing. What is a fucking U.S. citizen? Where did that come from? We read in Susan B. Anthony versus the United States, that judge gave an explanation telling you that it was created for emancipated slaves. So the white people, y'all should be leading the charge. How am I a fucking U.S. citizen? I wasn't no slave. You should be leading the charge. And that's another thing about the Moors picking nationality that I agree with. Because it is like, yeah, I was already here. I didn't come over on no boat. I 100% agree with that too. Another reason I don't knock nationality. I don't knock it. All right, it accomplishes some good things because it addresses those issues. It addresses those issues. So when somebody comes at me and says, I'm claiming my nationality, when they say that to me, though, I wonder, do they understand all these things I'm saying right now? I wonder if they know all these things I'm saying right now. Because I'm going to show you the affidavit of sovereignty next after this, and we can compare and contrast. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to put this on a pleading for you. I'm going to put it all on a pleading for you so you can understand how to transfer it from this document and put it on a pleading. But I want you to see how different documents address the same issues. All right, so right now, let's look at this next paragraph because this is very interesting. It says, so the unlawfully charged John Henry Doe declares that his unenfranchised status, let me see if I can. All right, so right here, yeah, I think I got that. I think that did it right there. Yeah. So this paragraph right here, this next paragraph, this is a dope paragraph. It says, so the unlawfully charged John Henry Doe declares that this unenfranchised status as a preambled American citizen of the guaranteed Republican form of government known as the United States of America, an inhabitant of the Georgia Republic or Texas Republic, that without a corpus delicti, no court, judicial, or legislative tribunal has a criminal jurisdiction over his person or property. And this is really interesting right here. This is a very, very powerfully charged paragraph as well. The reason you started off saying you're unlawfully charged is because you're a real living soul. You're not an artificial person. You're trying to charge me in a jurisdiction that I'm not subject to. All right? I'm not subject to that jurisdiction. Your jurisdiction is over corporate matters and over corporate entities. All right, so you unlawfully charge me, and I'm declared still, once again, unenfranchised. I don't fall with any territorial jurisdiction of a legislative body. status as a preamble American citizen. Notice that he wrote citizen with a capital C. Prior to the 14th Amendment, the word citizen was with a capital C. After the 14th Amendment, every time you saw the word citizen, it was with a lowercase c. Okay, the difference between a proper noun and a common noun. Now, you have to understand that grammar is another form of communication. It is imperative that you understand grammar if you're going to do any of this. Imperative. You have to be very good at grammar. At least D, you got to at least be able to score a C on a test. You can't be flunking the shit. You can't be flunking the shit. Preferably a B. You know, you need to be about a B student in grammar. I say a good B student. You don't have to be an A student, but if you're about a B student, you should be good. C, I'm going to worry about you a little bit. Anything below that, you don't need to be fucking with this. I'm going to tell you straight up, all right? And that's real. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm dead ass serious. I'm dead ass, as the young people say. I'm dead ass. I'm serious about that. If you don't know grammar, leave this alone. Or do what I did. I knew I was rusty on my grammar, and I got a dictionary and went to the back of it and started studying grammar. And they got tests on the internet for free. You go to websites for free and take grammar exams and things like that. You gotta tighten up your grammar, because grammar is a form of communication. It's an alternate form of communication. It can significantly alter your comprehension of what you're reading when you understand grammar. Okay, I'm trying to, all right, let's look at the last paragraph. Well, right here, let me finish this. So the unlawfully charged John Henry Doe declares that this unenfranchised status is a preamble American citizen of the guaranteed Republican form of government. Notice we're talking about a republic once again, known as the United States of America, not the United States, an inhabitant, not a resident, of Republic of Georgia, that without a corpus delicti, injured party, real living soul that's been injured, who's sworn out a verified complaint against me, no court, judicial, or legislative tribunal, neither one of them really, has a criminal jurisdiction over his person and body and property. Therefore, the accused specially visits before the law side of the court, not the legal side, the law side, seeking his protection from the excess zeal of corporate government. Oh, that was so smooth. I'm seeking your protection because that's your constitutional duty. You swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. You swore an oath to protect me and my private rights against these encroachments, all right? And I'm asking you to take a look at that. I'm telling you what my status is. You need to take judicial notice of that fact and stop ignoring it and acting like it is insignificant. You're playing with fire. Will your bond withstand the commercial liability that is being introduced into this courtroom today? Therefore, the accused specially visits before the law side of the court, seeking his protection from the excess zeal of corporate government, trusting that this court will assume a neutral stance at law and require the corporate plaintiff in this criminal action to prove its in rem, or that means against a thing, in rem, or in personam criminal jurisdiction over the accused to be a fact of law before this court will take on the role of judging the facts of this legislative charge brought before you. Your oath of office compels nothing less from you. I know it got to be some judges looking at this like, damn. I mean, that was very well constructed. You'd have to agree, wouldn't you? And I think the reason that I'm sharing it with you is because it's a good example of how to write and not sound like a sovereign citizen. It's an excellent example of that. You're not sounding like a crazy person. You're sounding like somebody who very thoroughly understands the law. Like a sovereign is supposed to. Because when a sovereign very thoroughly understands the law, they understand that you know how to get at their ass if they don't follow the law. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to y'all. Does that make sense? I hope I ain't losing nobody. I'm reading from Abatement at Common Law. I'm reading from Abatement at Common Law. And after this, we're going to look at an affidavit of sovereignty. Because that was now notice how that document was addressing status, and it was putting the judge on notice of how you're coming in. You know, a gentleman always gives notice. It's really ungentlemanlike to go into the courtroom and assault these judges without giving them a heads up of how you're coming. At least give them a heads up. And see, this is another thing. When you give them a heads up and they choose to still be disrespectful to you, you know, if you want to put them on blast, you're warranted to do that because you gave them a heads up. I'm giving you a heads up. I don't want to alert the public. I'm coming in here. This is my status before the court. Here's the remedy that I propose. I want full settlement and closure of this matter. This is a commercial matter. Let's not pretend that it's not. There is no money. You are bankrupt. You can't pay for everything. There's an obligation that the United States owes to its constituency, to the American people, to the private citizens of this country. I have a private status. I've shown, I put the court on notice of that fact. I have the substance. I have the commercial energy necessary to give life to a bond or a promissory note. You don't. Why are you acting like you do? Government creates nothing of value. All right. Let's look at something else. I hope I got it on here, man. I just thought about it. I'm always thinking about documents. And I'm saying, you know what? I did not upload that document. I did not upload that document. So I gotta. It's called the Affidavit of Sovereignty. This is another good document that a lot of people they've taken, and a lot of people have tried to create their own, and they changed it because they got punked out on the word sovereignty, and they say affidavit of truth. When you see the affidavit of truth, well, I don't like them because it's like they made them scared to use the word sovereignty. They ran them off the motherfucking word sovereignty. So they say, because they're all sovereign citizens, so they made, that's why I don't like the affidavit of truth. Even though it's a cool name, but the original affidavits of truth were offshoots of this document right here. So I'm gonna that's just a bit of history for you. I'm looking for the original. I think I can do this one right here, though. I think I can do this one right here. This ain't the original one, but I think it'll work. Let's see. Did it show up on the screen? Let's see if I can get it to show up on the screen. Well, that's it. All right. So we're gonna look at this. We're gonna look at this real quick. Okay. So notice right here they call it sovereignty affidavit of truth. I didn't even see that. I just downloaded this off the internet. So you see what I mean? They didn't combine the two. All right. But I don't really too much like the beginning of this. I'm gonna show you how to put this on a pleading as well. I don't really like this too much. the beginning, the opening of this document. I think it doesn't really follow the convention of how an affidavit is supposed to be put together. But it says, be it known to all who call themselves government, their courts, agents, corporations, and other parties, that I, secure party name, am a natural, freeborn, sovereign individual without subjects. I'm neither subject to any entity anywhere, nor is any subject to me. I neither dominate anyone, nor am I dominated. I'm not a person as defined in commercial statutes when such definitions include artificial entities. I refuse, and that's a beautiful way of addressing the word person. That's a beautiful way, because person, they got this word called natural person. All right, which, what is the necessity for modifying person? If it, and you're trying to make it apply to a real living soul, why don't you just say man or woman? Why are you trying to modify this word person, give the impression that by adding natural to it in some kind of way, it changes the nature of the word? It doesn't change the nature of the word. So a person is a persona. We know what that is. So I'm not a person. All right. So you have to be charging a person. You have to be charging some sort of artificial person, some sort of entity. All right. So that's what he says. I'm not a person as defined in commercial statutes when such definitions include artificial entities. I refuse to be treated as a federally or state-created entity which is only capable of exercising certain rights, privileges, or immunities as specifically granted by the federal or state governments. I, secure party, am created by God alone and subject only to my true creator God. This person changed this up, but that's okay. That was pretty good. This is not how the original read, but that's okay. I don't take issue at all. I'm not a fictitious corporate entity or a public office holder using any fraudulent government-created uppercase name that resembles my natural name. This uppercase fictional identity was forged for illegal commercial gain from a birth certificate without full disclosure and without my consent or my mother's consent. Now, they may take issue with that because your mother signed the birth certificate and all of that, but they didn't give full disclosure. They didn't. It said, I may voluntarily choose. Now, here's the thing. You got an executed contract and you got an executor contract. An executor contract is not completed. There is a mistake in the patriot community believing that you cannot contract with a minor. Yes, you can. You can find the case on it. You just can't execute on the contract until they reach the age of majority. But you can go ahead and have them do the contract prior to that time. And that's what they're doing with us. At the age of 18, it's called an executory contract. An executed contract, an executory contract. Look those words up. It says, it goes on, it says, I may voluntarily choose to comply with the laws which others attempt to impose upon me, but no such laws, nor their enforcers have any authority over me. I'm not in any jurisdiction, for I'm not of subject status. Now, this would require you to eliminate all minimum contacts. You just can't make this declaration without putting some action behind it, some serious action. Okay? It goes on, it says, unless I have willfully harmed or violated someone or someone's property without their consent, I have not committed any crime and I'm therefore not subject to any penalty. And this goes again to what we're talking about, a corpus delicti, or who have I harmed in the real living world. Okay, that is what a true crime is. Thus be it known to all that I reserve my natural right not to be compelled to perform under any contract that I did not enter into knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally. Furthermore, I do not accept the liability associated with the compelled and pretended benefit of any hidden or unrevealed contract or commercial agreement. As such, the hidden or unrevealed contracts that supposedly create obligations to perform for persons of subject status are inapplicable to me and are null and void. If I participated in any of the supposed benefits associated with these hidden contracts, I've done so under duress for lack of any other practical alternative. I may have received such benefits, but I have not accepted them in a manner that binds me to anything. Any such participation does not constitute acceptance because of the absence of full disclosure of any valid offer and voluntary consent without misrepresentation or coercion. Without a valid voluntary offer and acceptance knowingly entered into by both parties, there is no meeting of the minds and therefore no valid contract. Any supposed contract is therefore void
from the very beginning. Void ab initio. From my age of consent to the date affixed below, I have never signed a contract knowingly, willingly, intelligently, voluntarily, and intentionally whereby I have waived any of my natural inherent rights, and as such, take notice that I revoke, cancel, and make void from the beginning my signature on any and all contracts, agreements, forms, or any other instrument which may be construed in any way to give any agency or department of any government any authority over venue or jurisdiction over me. That was beautiful. That was beautifully written. Typical examples of such compelled and pretended benefits are, and this is when we get into each of the minimum contacts. This is why I like this document. Now, this document can be improved upon. It really can be. You know, all these documents on the internet are really like open source. Now, I wouldn't fuck with that judge's letter. That was a badass letter. But unless you can feel like you got some knowledge which you think you can add to it, go ahead. But birth certificate. The fact that a birth certificate was issued to me by a local hospital or government agency when I was born is irrelevant to my sovereignty. No status, high or low, can be assigned to any person through a piece of paper without the recipient's full knowledge and consent. Therefore, such a piece of paper provides date and place information only and indicates nothing about jurisdiction, nothing about property ownership, nothing about rights, and nothing about subject status. The only documents or commercial contracts that have any significance as it concerns my status in society are those that I have signed as an adult with full knowledge and consent, meeting true requirements of an enforceable contract, free from non-disclosure, misrepresentation, or coercion of any kind. That was tight. Okay, so that right there is addressing the birth certificate. Ain't nothing on this birth certificate. It ain't even a certificate of title. There's nothing on it. Go look at the description of a certificate of title. There's nothing on it that would suggest such. It doesn't suggest anything. I don't see how they're using it as evidence of anything whatsoever, you know, to claim jurisdiction on. Number 2, the use of national currency to discharge my debts. This is what Howard Freeman was talking about in the UCC connection. He believes that this is the main minimum contact that they are holding over our heads. This operational presumption that is operating through the fact that we are using Federal Reserve notes to engage in, goods and services. I think so too. I think that's a big minimum contact too. And they take silent judicial notice of that fact. That's why they ask you, do you work, and all those kind of underhanded questions that you think are innocuous questions, and they're deadly. The use of a bank account. This is a big one. This is another reason why you need a business, so you can have a business bank account. So you can put your bank account in your business name. If there's any hidden contract behind an account, my signature therewith gives no validity to it. The signature is only for verification of identity. I cannot be obligated to fulfill any hidden or unrevealed contract whatsoever due to the absence of full disclosure and voluntary consent. Likewise, my use of the bank account is due to the absence of an alternative. To not use any bank at all is very difficult and impractical, and it is. Just like trying to operate in this country without a driver's license and do business is impractical and almost improbable. This is why they had the secure party process, so you wouldn't have to do that, because everything is a commercial matter, so it addresses it commercially. This is what we got to get back to. The use of the driver's license, all right? There is no real need for me to have such a license for traveling in a car. However, if I am stopped for any reason and found to be without a license, it is likely I would be unduly harassed and penalized. Therefore, under duress, I carry a license only to avoid extreme inconvenience and assault by the legal violence system. Because that's all it is legal violence. You get pulled over and they start beating you on the head. Your state plates on your car. Everybody wants to drive around with, these other kind of license plates. Well, similarly, if I've registered my car with the state and carry the state plates on it, I've done so only because to have any other plates or no plates at all causes me to run the risk of police officer harassment and extreme legal violence. The use of a passport. There's actually an article on the internet addressing it's a law review addressing the constitutionality of the passport, because you're supposed to have freedom of what? Free to move freely about. So it was very interesting, to say the least. There is no real need for me to have a passport or any other associated permits, visas, etc. to travel. I have the right to travel without hindrance wherever, however, and wherever I wish to go, so long as I do not encroach upon the private property of others. Though without a passport, my right to travel is unduly hindered. Therefore, under duress, I only use a passport to prevent extreme inconvenience and to ensure that I can travel from one country to another at all. And then of course, we got past tax returns, voting, citizenship, all of this. This is a very good document. Where are we at? Okay, y'all, don't get mad at me. I'm going to have to get off, but I'm coming back. Please believe I'm coming back. I got to get off, but I'm coming back to finish this up. All right, to show y'all how to put it on the caption of the pleading. All right. I wanted to read those to you. I wanted to show you, introduce you to Abbyy Fine Reader and show you some other things. Go to Treasury Direct and look up scams. Everything you say is on there, but somehow you're allowed to not be taken down. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't talk about anything about Treasury Direct. What do you assume? You assuming that I'm telling people to go to Treasury Direct? I mean, no, I don't use anything. What I teach ain't on none of that shit. It ain't on none of that shit, bro. It on nothing because it's a private process. It's a private process. I understand don't mix public and private, so I don't understand what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Go to Treasury Direct and look up scams. Everything you say is on there, but somehow you're allowed to not be taken down. You just came over here and did a cursory investigation of me and then start making assumptions, and then you have the temerity, the stupidity to come into the comment section and start commenting on something you obviously do not have any knowledge about whatsoever. I have to clown you because you had the audacity to make a comment. And it's obvious that you have not done your due diligence on me and you're making a comment. You sound stupid. And I don't give a fuck personally what's on the Treasury website because they are public fucking servants. And we are the American people. We can look at it and see if what they are saying is correct. Because I'm telling you it's not. This motherfucker act like, no, let's go over to Treasury Direct, y'all. Let's see, how to protect yourself from investment scam in Treasury securities, misuse of finance, use of numbers as evidence of ownership, blocking of assigned Treasury securities. Let me see, that ain't none of them. Let me see if I can find them. Because he act like we don't go over here and read none of this shit. I go and read all of this shit. Let's see, let me put sovereign citizen on there. Maybe that'll pull up better. Birth certificate bonds. All right. This is one I already read. So let me put this on the screen for y'all. All right, this is one of the things he talking about. This is the Treasury Direct website. And right here, you just pull it up. I put Treasury Direct, scam, sovereign, frauds, phony scams, birth certificate bonds. I've read this already. So let's go to the story. Let's start the story. The story is a variation of the older bogus site drafts, bills of exchange. This right here has been on, these site drafts have been on, it's a picture of it. If you look on my Treasury Direct video that I put up, that picture, that site draft on there, that's been on the internet. We've been knowing about it for 15 years, and it has routing numbers on the bottom. All right, it's a mixing of public and private. All right, so the common tale offered is this scam states when the United States went off the gold standard. Now, I want you to pay attention to this, and I'm glad he brought this up. They're not going to denounce any of this. How they write is they always say what you believe. Pay attention to how they wrote it. So it's a common tale that the scam states that when the United States went off the gold standard in 1933, the federal government somehow went bankrupt. You somehow went bankrupt? You're $31 trillion in debt, okay? There is a meeting, I have on my website, right here on the website, the federal of 1933, the congressional record. Where is it at right here? Where is the congressional record? And I see I'm going to have to, they're going to make me go deep, y'all. I'm going to have to go through the congressional record with you and read it. Congressional record of 1933 right here. When you read this right here, this is what y'all read to get the real story. Fuck what's on the Treasury Direct website. That's just some motherfucker wrote. Ain't nothing under oath, ain't none of that shit. It don't mean nothing. What means something is this right here. This is what means something. This 73rd record of Congress. And see what those senators was talking about. Now, the reason I'm saying this, because you know James Traficant has said publicly, I don't know how many times, that the United States is bankrupt. He said we're going through the biggest bankruptcy in history. But right here on this Treasury website, they're gonna, and I've read this all before, so that's why I was ready for it. They're gonna say somehow, the story, somehow went bankrupt. With the help of the Federal Reserve Bank, the government became a corporation. I don't know about that. Ain't nobody saying with the help of the Federal Reserve Bank. That's not what we're saying at all. The Federal Reserve Act was signed in 1913. Ain't nobody said the Federal Reserve Bank helped to become a corporation. You can read that. You want to know how we know it's a corporation? Because you can go read the Federalist Papers, which I did, and the Anti-Federalist Papers, and they clearly called it a corporation in those documents. The corporate United States. I'm giving you the shit. That's why I can read this right here and I can see it's bullshit. But you the kind of motherfucker that believe anything. See, this ain't nothing but a blog. And you believe this shit as this is an authority. This ain't no authority. It's not authority, and it's in a case citation. Let's keep reading though. Let's keep reading. All right, so we addressed that. And somehow, and it didn't have anything to do with the Federal Reserve Bank. I don't know how you brought those two things together. The government became a corporation, sometimes called government franchise. No, we don't call the government a government franchise. We call the people of the United States franchises of the federal government. Tell them to go over there and correct it, okay? And converted the body of the citizens into capital value. Well, that only makes sense. You don't think they took an actuary table to come to a determination of the value of each citizen? Why do we have a minimum wage? If we have a minimum wage, isn't that a public declaration that every person in the country has a value? And how is the federal government borrowing money? How are they borrowing money from the Federal Reserve? What is the full faith and credit of the United States? Isn't it the American people? The federal government is $31 trillion in debt. They done hawked off everything in the country. The only thing you got left are the people, babies being born. Through deductive reasoning, we can reach that conclusion. Fuck what you talking about. How are they borrowing money and who's paying it back? The American people are. Who's paying back that $300 billion we gave to Ukraine? Where is he at? We see him on here. Where are you at? Where is he at? Where is he fucking at? Make me go out. You talking about Treasury Direct, look it up. On here with this fake profile. Bring your ass back on here. I want to come at you. Let's finish reading this shit though. All right? Let's finish, because this is good stuff right here. So, Notice that this is called obfuscation, all right, because they're kind of trying to make you sound crazy. This is one of those lunatic things. So, and converted the bodies of his citizens into capital value, supposedly by trading the birth certificate, supposedly. You don't have any evidence of that, and they are absolutely right. That's why I don't engage in speculation. You don't work for the federal government, so you don't know what the fuck is going on behind the scenes. Now, we can use deductive reasoning on a lot of things, but you don't have any tangible evidence to substantiate some of the things that you claim. And that's all that's alluding to right there. Supposedly by trading it, but they're not denying it. That's the thing about it. If you hit them with an affidavit and say, well, sign this affidavit, they won't sign it. That's why you have to know that there's no such thing in the public as lying. There's only committing perjury. They can tell you any motherfucking thing. The police have a right to lie to you. So it goes on, it says, all right, so it's, okay, so supposedly by trading the birth certificates of U.S. citizens. Now, we can read Susan B. Anthony versus the United States. He's making me go there. So let me pull up Susan B. Anthony versus the United States. Do I got it on here? I try to keep, this is all my stuff I keep for quick access. I got to put Susan B. Anthony versus the United States on here. Let me pull it up. Boy, you gonna turn this into a classic showish. You know, made me put what I had to do to the side. Like, okay, let's go on and get to it. All right, so right here, this is Susan B. Anthony versus the United States. Here's a citation of authority. This gets into a discussion about the 14th Amendment. So right here, we can read what a U.S. citizen is. What is a U.S. citizen? Because he's trying to say, well, you know, this is some of that sovereign citizenship, right? Okay, so right here you can see it. This right here is the Cliff Notes. Let me see if I can get into the body of it. Okay, so right here. Let's start right here. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were designed mainly for the protection of the newly emancipated Negroes, but full effect must nevertheless be given to the language employed. The 13th Amendment provides that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. If honestly received and fairly applied, the provision would have been enough to guard the rights of the colored race. In some states, it was attempted to be evaded by enactments cruel and oppressive in their nature, as that colored persons were forbidden to appear in the towns except in a menial capacity, that they should reside on and cultivate the soil without being allowed to own it, that they were not permitted to give testimony in cases where a white man was a party, they were excluded from performing particular kinds of business, profitable and reputable, and they were denied the right of suffrage. To meet the difficulties arising from this state of things, the 14th and 15th Amendments were enacted. So right here, he's telling you the purpose of the 14th Amendment, okay? Let's talk about the United States citizen. All right, this is what the next paragraph explains. The 14th Amendment creates and defines citizenship of the United States. Yeah, United States of America. And I can show you some more case law to support that. All right? This is how you have to hit these people, because when people like that come into the chat room, if you're not able to do that, go to the statutes. The answers are in there, in the case law. That's why I read case law, just so I can crush and humiliate one of them when they come over here. I want to humiliate him. Humiliate their ass. And humiliate whoever wrote that pitiful fucking article on the Treasury website. It goes on, the 14th Amendment creates and defines citizenship of the United States. It had long been contended and had been held by many learned authorities and had never been judicially decided to the contrary, that there was no such thing as a citizen of the United States, except as that condition arose from citizenship of some state. No mode existed, it was said, of obtaining the citizenship of the United States except by first becoming a citizen of some state. This question is now at rest. The 14th Amendment defines and declares who shall be citizens of the United States. All right, so United States citizenship did not exist until the advent of the 14th Amendment. So what were the people prior to that? Now we know that this was a result of the Dred Scott decision, all right? Because he lost that case and lost his freedom because blacks could not have a state citizenship. So what they did was they created a U.S. citizenship, a federal citizenship. Let's look at a document real quick. It is called the Federal Zone. And this is to my man, did he get, it's on Scrib. We can download it here. I don't know if this is it though. Cracking the Internal Revenue. I don't know if that's, let me see if this is it. I found out about this guy from the Supreme Court of California. One of the clerks sent me some information where he was suing all the attorneys in the state of California for practicing law without a license, because they say you need to have a license to come and practice law. Like, I went to a chief judge and asked him, I said, look, I've never seen a license. Show me yours. Who is the agency that issues these licenses? So we called the Bar Association. They said they didn't do it. Any of y'all can do this yourself. We contacted the bar. We wrote them a letter, certified, put a $100 money order in there, and had a list of attorneys we wanted, a copy of their license, and sent it to them. And they wrote back and sent back the money order saying they didn't issue license. They said the Supreme Court does. So then we contacted the Supreme Court, and they wrote back and say, we don't issue a license, all right? But the clerk, she put a case in the envelope, and it was of this dude right here. His name is Paul Andrew Mitchell. He was suing them. Paul Andrew Mitchell, if you're looking, that is how I found out about you, is that that clerk, that Supreme Court clerk of the Supreme Court of California, when we wrote them asking them for a copy of an attorney's license to practice law, they didn't have it, but she sent me a case where you were suing all the attorneys for practicing law without a license, which was very interesting. So I started looking you up, and I found this information right here. Next, how we found out how they practice law is not so much they have a license. The license is essentially permission, because that's what a license is, permission to do something that would otherwise be illegal. But it is through the Supreme Court allows it when you have a bar card. It's not nothing formal. It's an informal type thing. It's an informal license, so to speak. And anyone out in the legal community, you want to correct me on that if I'm wrong, I have no problem with that. But that's just where my research did end when I was out in California. But let's look at this. He has some good stuff in here. The reason I'm always keeping him, because he talks about these different definitions of United States that the Supreme Court has adopted. Okay, it says Supreme Court has officially defined the key term United States to have three separate and distinct meanings. Number one, it may be the name of a sovereign occupying the position of other sovereigns in the family of nations. Number two, it may designate the limited territory over which the sovereignty of the federal government extends. That's what we're dealing with right now, is number two. And number three, it may be the collective name of the 50 states which are united by and under the U.S. Constitution. So, of course, they use this word magic on you. When they say United States, you don't know what they're talking about. It could be any one of these three meanings. It could mean collectively, when all the states came together and united and formed the nation we call United States of America, or it could be a proper noun, the name of a corporation like Federal Express. All right, it has a federal name, but that's the name of a company. Okay, United States. And it'd be the name of a sovereign occupying the position of one of the sovereigns in the family of nations when they take their seat in the United Nations. Okay, United States. So these are the three meanings that are attributed to it. And I think they have the, what was the citation of authority for that? I got it. On my, I think it's going to be down here. We have our political system. These are all good citations of authority. You know, for it is certain that in the sense in which the word citizen is used in the federal Constitution, citizen of each state and citizen of the United States are convertible terms. They mean the same thing. For the citizen of each state are entitled to all the privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. The The citizens of the United States are, of course, citizens of all the United States. Now, this was after the 14th Amendment. I forgot, I think he give you before the 14th Amendment and after the 14th Amendment. Let me see if this is it. I'm trying to remember if this is the document, because I may be quoting from the wrong, but all these citations of authority are good. Yeah, right here. See how he says after the 14th Amendment, 1868. Okay, this was prior to this was 1868. So after the 14th Amendment, it is quite clear then that there is a citizenship of the United States and a citizenship of a state, which are distinct from each other and which depend upon different characteristics or circumstances in the individual. Slaughterhouse cases. That's a very famous case. Okay, the first clause of the 14th Amendment made Negroes citizens of the United States and citizens of the state in which they reside, and thereby created two classes of citizens, one of the United States and the other of the state. Now, this is what we're talking about when we do the state citizen passport. Why are you trying to take us off the internet? This is what it says right here, that there are state citizens and then there are federal citizens. Okay, we understand that there was no such thing as a U.S. citizen prior to the 14th Amendment. That right there is on the record in the case, and all these cases are talking about it, about this other citizenship. We got a multitude of cases talking about it. What no such thing as U.S. citizen. What is this? See, this is the thing that you don't want. You don't want the people to understand that you created this citizenship to enslave them. It is dangerous to talk about this because U.S. citizens are the sureties for the national debt. See, the U.S. citizen is responsible for the U.S. debt. The U.S. debt don't have nothing to do with the people of the United States of America and the Republic. The debt has something to do with U.S. citizens. That's why in the 14th Amendment, it tells them they cannot question the debt. It's right there. They can't even question it. And so when they charge somebody, they're charging a U.S. citizen. That's another reason I don't like the nationality defense and some of these other defenses of challenging jurisdiction, because it tells you right in there that you can't question the debt. The 14th Amendment citizen can't. And that is who they're bringing the claim against, the 14th Amendment citizen, not you. You're the real living soul. That 14th Amendment citizen is under their purview. It's under their jurisdiction. It is their creation. It's an ens legis. It's a creature of the state. So it's theirs. It's their property. They can charge it if they want to, but there isn't any money. Are we going to argue about that too? Is it a scam? Let me read over here what the Treasury Department was saying again. Let me finish. Let's finish reading this. It says, let me read it. I'm going to read it without taking a break. The story is a variation of the older bogus site drafts, bills of exchange drawn on the Treasury scam. The common tale offered in these scams states, when the United States went off the gold standard in 1933, the federal government somehow went bankrupt. With the help of the Federal Reserve Bank, the government became a corporation, sometimes called government franchise, and converted the bodies of its citizens into capital value, supposedly by trading the birth certificates of U.S. citizens on the open market and making each citizen a corporate asset, sometimes referred to as a straw man, whose value is controlled by the government. Okay? Scams vary in method for citizens to gain control of their alleged assets. All these are allegedly. We don't have any evidence to substantiate it. While filing a UCC-1 financing statement, activating a Treasury Direct account, or creating bonds using the savings bonds calculator. Okay? No denying anything. The blogs and videos promise that your birth certificate bond will be able to wipe out all of your debt or help you collect money securities. Some internet sites even offer to sell videos, webinars, and coaching on how to do this. No one has profited from the Treasury Department by using these tactics, but the scammers intend to profit from this story by selling their bogus wares. The reality: there is no monetary value in the birth certificate or social security number. EIN and Treasury Direct account numbers must be funded by the owner through payroll deductions or from purchasing directly from the owner's personal bank account to have any value. The savings bond calculator is merely a tool to calculate the value of a bond based on an issue date and denomination entered. This information could be issue date and denomination from a real bond, or it could be a random choice of a date and denomination. The calculator only checks that the issue date and the denomination entered are a valid combination. It will not verify whether a bond exists. This calculator will not verify the validity of a serial number or confirm bond ownership. Please be advised that trying to defraud the government by claiming rights to bogus securities is a violation of federal law, and the Justice Department can and has prosecuted these crimes. Federal criminal convictions have occurred in several cases. The scam artists who post blogs and videos are trying to defraud you into buying their fake product. Do not fall victim to their schemes. Now I've read your whole thing. Now let's break this down. Okay, let's start from the bottom and go to the top. Okay, so the government claiming rights to bogus securities is a violation of federal law. What bogus securities? Nobody, you talking about it owned by the federal government? What do they mean, bogus securities? Whose securities are they referring to? Are we talking about governmental securities or what securities? Because if they're public, I would agree with you on that. But if they're private, I don't agree with you that anybody can write a bond. What are you talking about? People have been sending them to the federal government for 30 years. And not one person has been arrested. Not at least not I know of. All right, let's go on. Not nobody on my watch. Let me just put it like that. Let's go on. This savings bond calculator, I don't even know what the fuck that is. I don't know nobody who's ever used it. When I first read this, that was my first time even hearing of that shit. I'm like, what the fuck is a savings bond calculator? It's a 30-year bond, okay? You just the date, if it's January 1st, 2000, then it's gonna be January 1st, 2030. 30 years, it matures. I mean, that's how I've seen how it's done. I don't know nothing about this right here. There's no monetary value to a birth certificate. Nobody's saying that it is. The birth certificate is not the value. The value is in the labor. The birth certificate is only indicative that somebody is alive, capable of performing labor. Labor is what has value. I know you're not going to deny that because this country was deeply steeped in motherfucking slavery. So I know you wouldn't have the audacity to let that bullshit fly out your mouth. We're talking about labor. What the birth certificate represents, as long as there's no death certificate, it has commercial value because there's someone capable of performing labor. And you can take that and you can use it and pledge it to get a loan. How are you pledging? What are you using security for this $300 billion that you're borrowing from the Federal Reserve, which we all know is not a governmental entity? You want to deny that too? That the Federal Reserve is a governmental entity? Because if it's the Federal Reserve, then who the fuck is the Treasury? Why was our money prior to the Federal Reserve? Explain this to me, Einstein. If this is what your money look like, okay, this is a gold certificate, Einstein. Okay, ain't no Federal Reserve on there nowhere. This prior to 1933. They talking about after 1933, allegedly you was bankrupt. Okay, well, this is money right here. It says this certifies that the bearer, the bearer that has deposited in the Treasury of the United States of America, $20 in gold coin payable to the bearer of this demand. This is a bearer instrument. You can take this to the Treasury window and get gold for it. We can't do that no more. Why we can't do that no more? Why we can't do that no more? Who is the Federal Reserve? Why is they only controlled by Jews? Is that why you over here, you mad because I've been talking about the Jews? You probably over here mad because, I was talking about that, because I was saying that the Jews run everything. Why y'all get mad because somebody say that? That seems like that should be something you should be proud of. You should be proud of it. Ain't the goal to take over the world and make everybody, subservient to you because you're the chosen people? Why is it that you, are adverse to that? Ain't that what God has ordained? If God has ordained it, God's word cannot come back to him void. I don't understand what you mad about. This is a $20 bill. Okay, so right here, we got Federal Reserve notes. I mean, this don't look nothing like that right here. You know what I'm saying? That's not it. Wait, did I put Federal Reserve note? That's not a Federal Reserve note. That's Federal Reserve note. It say Federal Reserve. They don't say nothing about. No, somebody made that. They see redeeming gold on demand. They put that on there. Small size note, Federal $5 value. They got a $5 value. Let me get y'all a real Federal Reserve note. I don't know who put that on there. Somebody playing with you. Did y'all put this on the internet and everything? This is what it looked like right here. I don't know where they got that right there. That's a Federal Reserve note. Oh, they ain't gonna make it where it ain't clear. But you can see right here. Yeah, I like this Federal Reserve note. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Just pull the money out your pocket and look at it. I don't have no gold in it, about redeemable and gold or nothing like that on there. And then what's really interesting is these letters on here on the $1 bill match up to the Federal Reserve districts, just like the red letter on the back of your Social Security card. Now, if that's not an account, is that a Social Security account? Is that the account number? Because if that's the account number, every time you lose your card, they give you a different number. Every time you get a new Social Security card on the back, the number changes every time. Sometimes it'll change Federal Reserve banks and go to a totally different bank. But that's just something just interesting that any person that is observing something should question, and we should receive an answer from it from our government under penalty of perjury. But they're not going to do that. Let's go back to your article. All right. So he's saying there's no monetary value to the birth certificate or a Social Security number, EIN, and Treasury Direct accounts must be funded. Now, I don't teach about the Treasury Direct information because I already see how y'all do all through y'all information talking about the secret account. That's why I went and did the video on the Treasury Direct account on my page. Did you look at it? You think I'm on here telling people to get a Treasury Direct account? I'm not telling people to do that because the secure party process don't involve that. It don't involve anything like that. All right? The bond is what has value. That's what everything is being assigned from, not an account. Then you have to understand what constitutes an account. What makes something an account? Those are the things that you have to understand. Okay, so it's all private too. It don't have anything to do with anything from the government. And then you're making an offer to the government. All right, you're not claiming anything. You're making an offer to them. Your first Treasury pack, when it goes out, you're not telling them, you're offering it to them. You're giving them the option. Look, if this is unlawful or in some kind of way you disagree with anything that is in this process, return this. We're going to give you 30 days to return it. They don't never return it. You know why? Because beggars can't be choosy, because the United States of America is bankrupt, because as a banker told me, anytime that you put a signature on something, it now has value. It can be negotiated. This is when we get into an understanding of reading UCC 3-302, the holder in due course rule, that they can take an instrument, okay, if they don't have notice that something is fraudulent on it, or it has an uncured default or something like that, they can take it and negotiate it for value to someone else. That's right there in UCC 3-302, holder in due course. That's why people say that fraud is permissible under the UCC. They don't understand what they're talking about, but I can understand why they put that rule in there, because we're dealing with negotiable instruments, things that are being negotiated with signature. They had to put a clause like that in there. They had to. So let's get on. It says, the blogs and videos promise that your birth certificate bond will be able to wipe out all of your debt or help you collect money securities. I don't make any promises to collect monies and securities, and I definitely don't claim to promise to wipe out all of a person's debt, because there's only a certain amount of debt that can be discharged. It's not wiping it out, it's setting it off. Let me explain a set off to you, because you're not paying for anything. A set off is involving two different transactions. So in the public, you are bankrupt, sir. If you don't know that, then I would have to question your level of intelligence. You don't have anything of substance. All substance, or the full faith and credit of the United States, is derived from the labor of the American people when they pay their taxes. All right, which, as we can see from the report issued by Ronald Reagan, that 100% of those proceeds go to pay the interest on the national debt. That's why we talking about y'all using all these municipal bonds and things of that nature, because you had to find a way to get into government services and start getting and making money for yourself. You couldn't totally depend on money from the American people through taxes. It wasn't enough. First of all, only 51% of the people pay the taxes. So now you had to get into creative ways of creating money for yourself. And money is created in this system through the creation of debt. This is a debt-based system. So anytime that you can collateralize property and make an obligation through contract on it, you've created value. You've created money. Scams vary methods for citizens to gain control of their alleged assets, such as filing a UCC1 financing statement. You didn't explain how that's a scam. You've been, okay, activating the Treasury Direct account. Well, I got one. That wasn't a scam. Creating bonds by using the savings bond calculator. I don't even know what the fuck that is. When I first read this, I didn't even know how to fucking respond to that. What is a savings? Nobody in this space uses a savings bonds calculator. So unless it's some fringe group that I don't know about, y'all might be dealing with. All right, so let's get back to the story. It says the story is a variation of the bogus site draft bills of exchange drawn on the Treasury scam. Okay, they're not drawn on the Treasury. That's another thing. See this thing with this Treasury Direct account? Ain't nothing being drawn from that. You got to be able to come to class and I'll explain it to you. But it's not being drawn from that. It's private. It's public and private. See, when you keep your process 100% private, they can't do nothing to you. They can't touch you. That's why it's important to understand the distinction between the two. That's why you don't use routing numbers or you try to extract money from some account in the public. And these people, they don't understand that he's just coming on here. He just talking. He just read something, think I'd be afraid to read it, not knowing that I read all this shit. I read everything that they say. I read everything about the fake trust and all of that. We can read that next if you want to. And here's the funny thing about it. Most of the stuff you directed me to read, I done already read it like in 2010 and 2000, just year after year. Because it's been on the internet for a long time. Some of it's been on the internet a long time. This kind of new page they didn't put up. But they ain't had stuff like this on the Treasury Direct, on the Treasury's website for the longest. They got stuff in the IRS employee manual talking about it. You want me to show you that? I'll show you that too. So when you read the employee manual of the IRS, let me see if this is it right here. All right. So right here, this is unacceptable payments. This right here is really interesting. This is the IRS employee manual that stuff goes to them. So right here it says unacceptable payment of taxes are items that the depository bank will not accept as payment. Any of the following items found in the payment perfection unit must be returned to the taxpayer using letter 4480C. If these items are not returned immediately, they must be stored in a locked safe. Okay, so these are things that the IRS will not take as payment for your taxes. Gold, that's curious. Silver, jewelry, stamps, saving bonds, treasury notes, treasury bills, stocks, treasury certificates of deposit, promissory note, remember that one. Gold coins other than U.S. currency, deposit slips or withdrawal slips, credit cards, debit cards, gift cards, tickets to events, lottery tickets, etc. Obviously fake money such as monopoly money, oversized billion-dollar bills, currency copied with animals or other unusual items printed on the bill, etc. Expired or stale dated checks, unexpired passports. If the passport is expired, turn over to operations manager of receipt and control to destroy. I don't even know what that is. Now here's the note to the sovereign community. Note, if a promissory note is returned to the taxpayer and the taxpayer sends the note in again citing public policy ACR 192, forward the note to the criminal investigation field office, attention special agent in charge of the state the taxpayer resides. Okay, I get all of that, all right, because they're going to force you to use a promissory note. A promissory note is a two-party instrument. It doesn't draw off anything. It's just a promise to pay something, which they should take. All right. But the thing about the bill of exchange, it's a three-party instrument. It has a drawer and a drawee, and you're appointing them the trustee of that document. Okay, they're a trustee with a fiduciary duty. It's clearly laid out. The indenture agreement is on the bond itself. Now, I don't know if any of these people in government read something, but they are obligated to read it. They are legally bound. Equality under the law is mandatory. There's no exception. You don't have any exception, sir, to ignore anything. Not coming from the American people who pay your checks, who pay your salary. But anyway, it goes on. When we go down here, we can see bill of exchange. Now, what happens when you send in a bill of exchange? If a bill of exchange or registered bill of exchange is received from the taxpayer, authorized in the campus to settle their account through FedWire, send everything received to the following address: Department of the Treasury, Office of the Secretary, 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, room 3413, Washington, D.C., 20220, where we send our bond to. See, it's a lot of people, they comment on things they don't understand. You know, you don't understand what we are doing over here and what we're saying. And really, you need to get back into your place, because this liberalism, I'm here to help destroy that movement. I'm an enemy of communism, Marxism, socialism. I'm an enemy of all those things, because I am a proponent of private rights, and all those things are against private property rights. So I have to be by default. And I know that that makes a lot of people upset, particularly those who are condoning socialism or Marxism or communism or something like that, which we see pervading all throughout society today in the many, many different forms. It's taken on many different forms: feminism, LGBTQ, entitlement by our young people. I identify as this. Just the whole liberal mindset is just another name for communism. That's what y'all need to really start calling it. They call it liberal to throw you off, but it ain't nothing. And they wrote about, and it's a funny thing, they've been doing that for years. People have wrote about this. I'm not the first person to identify this. They've wrote about this and said that that word liberal just means communism. It's just a Marxist term. That's exactly what it is. And that's why the people who are the majority subscribers to it, they're the ones that form communism. You paid a subscription. I studied in nothing. Like I said, it's their system of exchange, their rules, but this leads us to legal trouble, claiming no, you ain't in no legal trouble, because, see, that once again, you don't understand. Because you become in legal trouble when you go into the public. You don't fuck with any of that shit. You sitting here, you don't understand it. That's what it really is. You don't understand. And I want y'all to take note of this, because this is the example of newbies who don't understand the difference between public and private. They don't understand what private property rights are, because they have been in the public their entire life. They went to public school. They get public assistance. They get loans in the public, for their house, their cars, and things like that. Everything they do is in the public. Their entire life has been spent into the public. That they don't even know what private means anymore. And that's what's going on in the country right now. And that's why they want to hurry up and bring in communism, because that's going to destroy private property. They're already advertising to you that you will own nothing and you will enjoy it. Already telling you this, because that's what Marxism is. Page 2 of the Communist Manifesto. Go read it, by Karl Marx. He says, "Hey, Yusef, thanks for helping condition my mind and thinking. I'm 14, trying to understand how the world works." Wow. 14 years old, man, you have a significant jump on all your peers. Okay. I tell you what, this is what you do. You're 14. Just make a habit of never passing a word you don't know the meaning of. Build your vocabulary first. Your comprehension is going to be commensurate with how well you build your vocabulary. So start with building your vocabulary up. Get an affection with words. and and how they and use them in a sentence. Don't be afraid. See how they got us is they got us to make intelligence seem corny. When I used to look at all the gangsters and the leaders and they was all intelligent. So when I came to my people, I wanted to show them that you could be intelligent and gangster at the same time. You could be a street cat and be intelligent, speak articulate. That is what you should be able to do, is move in different circles. I'm not finna talk all like this and I'm in a trap with some other dope boys or something and they smoking blunts and shit. I'm not gonna talk like this. And likewise, I'm not gonna talk like I talk there if I'm in a boardroom meeting. You should be able to reach out and be able to, understand different circles of people. And that can only be accomplished by you having a big, being able to move in different circles, as I like to say. If you want to call it being a chameleon, that's fine. But it still takes intelligence to do. So you need to be intelligent and, work on your word game. And it will start to make sense. And start with the Black's Law Dictionary. Start reading the Black's Law Dictionary and just start. Like what I did was I started with words. I just started, I remember the first time I picked up a Black's Law Dictionary, I remember the first word I looked up and I still remember the definition to it. The word was legal fiction, which is an assumption that something is true, even though it may be untrue, made especially in judicial reasoning to alter how a legal rule operates. I remember I committed that to memory because that word, at least with the people I was dealing with, they were using it a lot. Oh, it's a fiction of law. It's a legal fiction. They were throwing that word around a lot. And I had to start with that. Understand that when you hear the word corporation, you're dealing with a legal fiction. When you hear the word person, you're dealing with a legal fiction entity. Okay, these are things they cannot deny. They cannot deny these things I'm saying. If they do try to deny it, they're either foolish, ignorant, or being deceptive. Or attempting to be deceptive. And that's just it. But it is, I am so thrilled that someone your age is attempting to learn this. Because if one person your age will learn it, that means two will, because you're going to spread it. You may not know when you talk to somebody else, but sometimes you talk to somebody and you don't think they're paying attention and they'll leave you and you be converted a whole person into things. The reason that so many people are following this information is not because they're desperate, because they're broke. People are being saddled with debt, and it is largely due to their irresponsibility. I will say, because we have to, if we're sovereigns, you have to take responsibility for things, but that's not the spirit of intent of what this is. The spirit of intent of this is to reestablish vis a vis our relationship with our government and put everybody back in their proper positions, put them back in the proper role of public servant who is there to serve the constituency. And we, as the overseers of that, and staying vigilant and making sure that they honor their oath to the Constitution for the United States of America. If not, then they have to be removed. That's our job to do that as the people of this country. So I think you got things wrong, in assuming that it's some terrorist organization or somebody just bent on having to get a lot of free shit. Now, there are people who do have that mindset. They come in with that mindset. And that's why when they meet me, they run into something different. They run into, because I've had a long time to study this. I've met a lot of different people. I've met a lot of incredibly brilliant people. I've met a lot of incredibly spiritual people. I met a lot of incredibly helpful and loving people, in this space. I haven't met any evil people, definitely not the kind you like to profile on the news and things like that, which I think some of them are actors, but I don't meet anybody like that. I meet people who are concerned about the way this country is going. I meet people who are tired of being afraid. They're tired of being afraid. They're tired of being afraid of their government. I'm not supposed to be afraid of my government. The government is supposed to be afraid of the people. We ain't supposed to be afraid of them. That's what the gun rights was all about. We ain't supposed to be afraid of them. But that's going to require a proper education, and you're not giving it in your public schools. Trust me on that. I didn't learn none of this in your public school. Nothing. Nothing, not even remote. My whole understanding of the New Deal was some other type shit in public school from what they glossed over it. No thorough explanation whatsoever of what it was. Maybe that's the presumption that you're operating off of, that we went to public school and we should know. Maybe that's it. Later on, he mentioned that people choose to pay us back. They're giving us gifts, and I never knew what that meant, right? And get your education outside of school, being autodidactic. Is that what they're saying? And forget what the education system teaches you. They don't want you to be smart or a leader, just smart enough to do your job. And that's true. That's the Rockefellers, the one who implemented that. You know what? It would be some good research for y'all to conduct. The origin of the public school system and who were very vocal opposition to them, namely the Catholic Church. That's why a lot of your private schools are Catholic churches or Catholic schools, because they were some of the biggest opposition to public schools. However, where they fell short is when they started taking Federal Reserve notes, and then they had to be classified as a 501(c), or C3. I forgot which one it is. But when they started having to be classified like that, that brought them under the jurisdiction of the government, because there's supposed to be a separation of church and state. The church is supposed to be private. The government is supposed to be public. The church shouldn't have anything to do with the government, because it's God. You're talking about the secular world and the spiritual world. They're not the same thing. You can't mix the two. The spiritual world precedes the secular world. It dominates it. My day is good. Okay. I don't know if that was... the best education you ever get was the one you give yourselves. That's absolutely true. You have to self-educate yourself. You need to go back and listen to that Rabbi Finkelstein. Listen, I go back and listen to that periodically. I love Rabbi Finkelstein. And the reason why is that he tells the truth. And I love the truth. I love the truth. How could you hate somebody for telling you the truth? I'm not going to hate nobody for telling me the truth. He told the truth. He said, y'all won't self-educate. You won't self-educate. They done programmed you to the point you think a formal education is enough. A formal education ain't shit. I meet a lot of people college educated. They're the biggest fools ever. Sometimes that college education make you more of a fool because it blinds you to the truth. So when the truth is presented to you, you don't believe it. Like when I was riding on a plane with a military guy, and I was telling them there was 2 United States, and he just didn't believe that. He acted like, let me tell you, he was so patriotic. For me to say that, if we weren't on a plane, I think he would have kicked my ass for saying that. I'm not bullshitting. That's how much it upset him for me to say that. But I'm just telling the truth. But I'm sure he went and investigated it and started finding some shit out. But then, it depends on what kind of investigation that he did, because then he also went and investigated on the internet and he saw all the stuff the detractors are saying. Oh, these people are crazy. And it just depends. If he's the kind of person to say, you know what, I thought that was crazy, or he's the kind of person, well, let me dig a little deeper, because anytime these motherfuckers are saying something that's crazy, that means I need to take a second look. Long as you go by that philosophy right there, you'll never go wrong. You'll never go wrong. If they saying, no, don't read this person, like they doing an all-out assault right now on American Heroes channel on Adolf Hitler. So, that means you need to go read Me and Cough. Because I'm listening to the narration. I'm like, where are they getting this story from? I'm listening, this don't go in line with nothing I've been studying and reading and researching. Oh, it's his story. Okay. He's giving his story. You're only hearing one side of every story in the mainstream media. You're only hearing one side of every story. If mainstream media is one-sided and it's heavily liberal. heavily. Oh man, y'all, this consultation. I want the truth, but I can't afford $500 consultation. You don't need to talk to me. I'm right here right now. I'm charging $500 because there's people in line. You want to skip in line. It's $350. That's how much my time is worth, to me, because every second you're getting closer to death. So if you want to sit on the phone with me an hour and talk to me, yeah, you're going to pay me. I don't feel bad about it at all. At all. I think your fees should be commensurate with your popularity, because the more popular you get, the more in demand you are. And the more in demand you are, you naturally have to raise your prices, because you kept it the same. Everybody's going to be pulling on you. So you have to naturally raise the prices also to get to the people who are serious, because there's a lot of people that will waste your time. There's a lot of people that will waste your time. Yusef, brother, can you elaborate a little more on the UCC 1 and 3 Amendment working productively as a transmitting utility, how to best stay in the private or not expose your trust to public, blah, blah. The UCC 1 is just a notice, okay? It's a notice. They came up with the commercial chamber to accommodate. See, the UCC, or the Uniform Commercial Code, is a codification of the law merchant. The law merchant has been around for thousands of years, and they codified it. They also codified a negotiable instruments law. And they codified it. In that codification, okay, there are rules in dealing, and they had to utilize this system because there isn't any money. They had to switch to negotiable instrument because they're using dead paper. They're using a dead paper. Now, they have a system that they utilize. Everybody has the right to create negotiable instruments. As a matter of fact, we were the ones making negotiable instruments. They took the idea from us. Who do you think the merchants were? They weren't them. All right, the government borrowed that when they had to stop using gold and silver and started using negotiable instruments. So there's a public side to it where they put routing numbers and use CUSIP numbers and things of that nature and route through their system. And then there's a private side to it where everything we create our own routing system. We create everything ourselves, our own value and all of that. Okay? Then we also use contract law, because what? You have the right to contract unlimited. The government is always contracting with you. Okay? You have the right to contract with them. You have the right to petition your government anytime you want to. That's your government. Sometimes the things that they say are just insulting. It's insulting, the level of thought some of them have about that position that they have that was given to them by us. The audacity, some of the things that they say. All right. So you're keeping it private by making sure you understand what public is. Once you understand what public is and you know what not to do public, that's how you know how to stay private. Usually one of the best teachers, for me at least, has been studying trust and tax law, because tax law is public. And you see so many people, the people you see who are tax protesters, 9 times out of 10, there are individuals who do not understand the difference between public and private, because tax law is in the public, it's not in the private. So when you call yourself tax exempt, it's just another way of saying I'm private. Tax exempt and private are synonymous terms. That's all you're saying. It's just a fancy language that you're using in your document. I am tax exempt, natural man tax exempt. Sometimes you just use common language like I'm trying to get people to do. But and you're only taxed on benefits and privileges. So once you understand what you're taxed on, and now you're trying to stop this entity from being subject to a tax like a private trust, you naturally learn the distinction between public and private. Tax law is one of the biggest teachers of public-private that there is. Tax law, then trust law. So, and that's why when you learn that, you'll see what tax protesters sound crazy. Not because I'm trying to side with the government or anything like that. I'm not siding with them. The Federal Reserve is not a governmental entity. That's like me. I want you to think about this. Let's say you got the power of Superman, and so you just took over the world. Or not say you didn't take over the world. Let's just say you took over Texas, and you just say, fuck it, y'all gonna give me Texas, I'll let y'all have the rest of the country. I'm taking over Texas and making it my own country. Don't fuck with me.
All right, so now you got your own country, and you're letting the citizens use gold and silver, but you also issue your own money. And you got your picture on the money. Are you going to let somebody come along and they're using that money with your picture on it and tell you can't tax them? That's what Jesus was confronted with in the Bible when they asked him, is it lawful for us to render tax to Caesar? And he said, give me the coin. Whose superscription is on there? Caesar. Well, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and unto the Lord what is the Lord's. All right. When you start reading these documents with a third eye, you can understand that is some of the wisest shit ever said. Understand that's they shit, Federal Reserve notes. I'm not going to argue with them over Federal Reserve notes, how they tax them or anything like that. But I will tell them that it is a promise to pay. It's not money. It's a negotiable instrument. You are a private central bank. I'm a private citizen. Equality under the law is mandatory. If you can issue negotiable instruments, why can't I? That's my question. Answer that. And can't I tender them for acceptance to our government? And if they refuse it, they can return it to me with evidence of a defect from a qualified third party and allow me the opportunity to cure such defect in that instrument? Isn't that what notaries are in financial institutions for? You can find this all out by reading the Black's Law Dictionary and study everything with notaries. And you can also go to Corpus Juris Secundii. It's not in American jurisprudence. Go to Corpus Juris Secundii if you can find a set and read everything up on notaries. It's going to be the best education you can get. And you can go get a Pombinos Notary Handbook. Pombinos, Pombinos Notary Handbook. There is a PDF on SPC University. I hope that kind of answers your question. You start by learning public and private. You start by watching the video on this channel. Do you really understand the private side? Start there. I got 2 variations of that video too. An old school one and one that I updated, a remix version. Yusef, have you read A Real Case Against the Jews? One of them points out the full depth of their guilt by Marcus Eli Ravage, a Jew, in Century Magazine, volume 115, number 3, 1928 edition, pages 346 through 350. Well, they call them apostate Jews. And a lot of them have done that, female and male. Ayn Rand was Jewish. And she, in her writings, she appears to be against them. I can't tell for a fact. Let me tell you something. You cannot depend on their commentary. What you have to depend on is your research and knowledge. It is your responsibility to know the law. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So you have to know the law. Only when you know the law can you listen to other people and do an accurate assessment as to whether or not they're telling the truth or not, or they're on point in what they're saying. Because trust me, they believe in their heart of hearts that the majority of people in the United States of America are stupid. They believe that shit. You take that to the bank. And they're not far off. It's not that people are stupid. They're apathetic. They're lazy. They are preoccupied with bullshit, distracted. Involved in only concerned with hedonistic activities. That's the American people, drugged up. Let me tell you something. I was locked up with a drug boy, and this nigga was telling me, he was telling me about different drugs, all right? So, I'm listening to him. So they telling me about this drug. Listen, I didn't even know drugs went to this level. All I knew about was weed, coke, heroin, ecstasy, I don't know, maybe some shrooms or something, the typical shit, This motherfucker is talking about like 200 different type of drugs, and he's talking about this one drug that he can fly into outer space and have sex with purple bitches, And that's why he addicted to it,
because he's always, flying in outer space, going and having sex with this purple woman. And he was loving it. And then he was sober telling me all of this. He wasn't drugged up. And this was a white boy who looked like he traded stocks on the stock market, all right? And he's having a discussion with me and talking about the addiction, okay, on these drugs and everything. So then I asked him, and he was selling them, and I asked him, I said, say, man, how many people in this city you think are using drugs? And this nigga told me 90%. He didn't even hesitate. He said, he's talking about Atlanta, Georgia. He said 90%. So I want y'all to think about that. How many people are out there drugged up? What kind of drugs are you on? Just throwing some stuff out there for you to think about, because people talking about being sovereign and all this kind of stuff. It says, do you subpoena your notary to court as a witness during the declaratory judgment, trying to figure out when that happens? You can. There's nothing wrong with that. They should probably already agree. You should already have that agreement from your notary. Your notary has the record. They have a notarial record book. That is admissible in court. They are officer of the court. Yes, you bring them into court. I don't know if you need to subpoena them, but you can subpoena anybody to court. If you need to do that, you can. Yusef, think about the legal drug dealers. They only arrest drug dealers to eliminate the competition. Yeah. I remember there was this guy, I was talking to him. He is the guy, he was the president of the company that made the sex pills, the blue ones in the gas station, the blue ones, I forgot what they're called. But he was telling me where the ingredients come from. The ingredients come out of the Amazon rainforest. But he was shipping them into the country and wasn't going through the Food and Drug Administration. So he got popped by the feds. By the way, he gave his attorneys $2 million and he still got time like the rest of niggas and shit like that. I just had to throw that out there. I always got to throw that out there, you know what I'm saying? But it was just really interesting. That's what we called him, a legal drug dealer. I said, you want him legal drug dealer? Any documents that explain the declaratory judgment paperwork necessary to file the clerk of court. No, you can just get a declaratory judgment. That's an equitable remedy. A declaratory judgment is not about guilt or innocence or who's at fault. It just basically confirms the rights of the parties. That's what a declaratory judgment does. It confirms the rights of the parties. So you can do it as a step prior to going in there. Go and get you a forms and pleadings book from the law library and get a declaratory judgment and use that as a template. And you should be, if you've gone through any kind of high school education, like I have, it's self-explanatory what to do. All right, y'all. I'll be back tomorrow with the paperwork. I got to talking too long tonight. I think y'all wanted me to convert something, but I'm going to come back tomorrow. And I appreciate y'all sticking with me tonight. It's getting late. It's 1:30. I talked longer than what I meant to. But I will be back on in the morning to do the paperwork. So be looking for it. Be on the channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Go to the Treasury Direct website and read the articles, all the articles on there. If you have questions about anything on there, give it to me. Understand the difference between public and private. Understand what it means to be honorable, because you are dealing with equitable remedies, which means you have to have clean hands and act in good faith. You should know the definition of good faith and clean hands. You should know the definition of good faith and clean hands. All right, y'all. I will be back on another episode. I got to get off. Peace to the gods. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace. I'm out.